How did you become interested in science field at first? We heard that you liked chemistry a lot from your childhood.
I've always been interested in chemistry and biology, and as a child I spent a lot of time at a very young age playing with chemistry set. And I was always intrigued how when you mix one chemical with another, it changes the color of the solution, or it does something. In some cases it may even explode. Of course, that was always exciting to me, as it would be for most kids. But I developed an interest in chemistry at a very young age, but I was also interested in biology. I always was so curious how animals could see, or how they could hear, how they could talk. When you eat food, where does it go? What happens to the food inside? I had all these questions when I was 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old. And so for that reason, I wanted to study, continue to study this, as I got older. So that was my stimulus to go into science and biology.
Many people are very curious about Nobel Prize laureate childhood. What kind of a kid were you?
I was always a very good student. And the reason I was good was because I was afraid to fail. I did not want to do poorly. So I made sure that I studied hard enough so that I wouldn't be the lowest in the class. But by studying that hard, I was always on top of the class. So that was a good feeling. And I guess, I always appreciated the value of good education. I had good teachers when I was in school. Sometimes, there would be one or two teachers who were not very good, and I didn't learn too much. But from the good teachers, I learned something. So that's how I learned to be a good teacher later in life, because I remembered who was a bad teacher and who was a good teacher. But I always felt that education was so important. So as I was growing up, of course, they learned English a little bit better, but they were completely uneducated. So they could not help me with anything, but they encouraged me to become educated. They wanted me to learn the things that they did not have the opportunity to learn. My father did not want me to be a shipbuilder like he was. He wanted me to be somebody, a doctor, a lawyer, something like this. So they encouraged me and motivated me to study in school. But they didn't push too hard. That was good. It's not good to push too hard. They just motivated me, and everything turned out to be okay.
Would you explain about the role and effect of nitric oxide? What is the implication of your research?
Nitric oxide turns out to be extremely important for everyone in pharmacology and also for our lifestyle. When I first discovered nitric oxide, we had no idea how important this was going to be. It was simply another chemical that produced some interesting effects in the body, especially on the heart, but we had no idea how important it was going to be. So my work and the work of others showed that our bodies produce nitric oxide for the purpose of preventing stroke and preventing heart attack. This is why we make nitric oxide. If the body does not make sufficient quantities of nitric oxide, there's a much higher risk for getting stroke and heart attack. In the healthy body that makes a lot of nitric oxide, there's no stroke or heart attack. So that is the reason I was awarded the Nobel Prize, because it's an important finding, has profound impact on humankind. So nitric oxide turns out to be one of the most important molecules that our body makes to protect us against disease.
What kinds of food are bad for your health, destroying nitric oxide?
The best way to keep nitric oxide level up is to eat a healthy diet, to do exercise almost every day, and to avoid certain kinds of foods that destroy nitric oxide. And so that is what I'm trying to do by going throughout the world to lecture, but I'm also trying to write books so that the layperson, the public, can understand what I have to say. And I'm finding this part of my career more difficult than the research, because people don't listen. Eating saturated fats, for example, beef. Beef is not healthy, okay? Beef is not healthy. You can eat it in moderation, once a week, but lean beef, not beef with all the fat. I love barbecued beef, but we have to keep that down, you know. The healthiest food you can eat is fish. Any kind of fish. If people can afford it, if it's easy, they should eat fish every day. Fish is the healthiest food, but beef is harmful. Also, too much salt and too much spice in the diet is unhealthy, because this causes high blood pressure, and the high blood pressure causes heart disease and stroke. So there are many different kinds of harmful foods that I think people should try to avoid.
We are pretty much interested in nurturing Nobel Prize winner in science fields. What's your message to Korean students who want to become great scientists at first and then try to become Nobel Prize laureates in science field?
I think that the students need to be motivated. They need to want to do basic research. So they should feel very excited about the basic research they are doing. And when they start off, they should develop a strong background, and they should get into the habit of picking good research topics in fields that have many questions that need to be answered. So I think young scientists need to focus on what areas really need a lot of attention, and then try to do novel research. Try to think ahead. Always try to think ahead. What needs to be done that no one else has done? And then go and do it. And if you keep doing that, you will become very successful. And then, later, you can think about the Nobel Prize. But it's not a good idea to think about the Nobel Prize at the beginning of your career, because too much pressure, too frustrating. It's just not a good idea. My advice is to forget about the Nobel Prize until you've established your career, and then you can start thinking about it.